Fresh on the heels of the Tokyo Olympic Games, the SportsMax.tv online team has embarked on an ambitious initiative, On Point. That's the name of its latest online initiative that seeks to get the interesting backstories relating to the lives and performances of some of the world's best-known athletes. Renowned track and field analyst Leighton Levy now joins us to discuss the premiere of On Point. Leighton, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. The track and field season is over, but track and field is still big business, and On Point seeks to elucidate that and put it up as the big attraction as track and field.
Yes, in a way, and because, look, the track and field season has just ended, but the preseason has begun. And of course, as we know, Lance, there's going to be a major championship every year for the next 4 years. The World Championship next year in Oregon, then in 2023, the Olympics in 2024, and then the World Championship again in 2025. So the stories are always going to be relevant, and it's always going to be right up front because of the sequence of events coming up. And of course, the thing is that On Point is going to be looking at some of that, but it also is not going to be unique to track and field, because what we're trying to do is to find interesting stories from athletes, Caribbean-based athletes primarily, from across the globe, whether they're running track or playing football, or as we're trying to secure now an interview with the Jamaican bobsled team that is about to begin the qualification process for the Winter Olympics next year. As you know, we're carrying the Winter Olympics here on SportsMax. Mm-hmm. So all of that will be part of the discussions that we will have with athletes. But for now, it's exclusively skewed towards track and field athletes, because there are some stories that come out of the Olympic Games, and of course, who didn't make it, like the interview that we plan to air tomorrow in our season debut with Justin Gatlin, who talks about the possibility of retirement. And in a very interesting interview. And of course, so far we've spoken with Sean Emida-Weibo, we've had Candice McLeod, we've spoken to Lennox Graham, we possibly might get Marie-Jose Talou. You know, we have some athletes lined up. Of course, Chantal Malone from the BVI, hopefully we'll be getting her to secure an interview date next week. So it's starting out as track and field, but there's going to be a mix of sports and interesting athletes from the Caribbean who represent the Caribbean or who are playing in different territories in different sports across the globe.
Yeah, and you did say, Leighton, primarily Caribbean, but curiously, the first show is not Caribbean, it's Justin Gatlin. Yes,
but he has very strong Caribbean links in the sense that he was Usain Bolt's greatest rival for almost 10 years, and the man who eventually dethroned him at the World Championships in 2017. And so, you know, we thought, in fact, this interview was not supposed to be the first one that was aired, but based on when we completed the interview yesterday, there are certain things that he said that could not be held, yes, because they're time specific. So we had to shift things around a little bit, and then, of course, open with that one tomorrow.
You had to fast-track Gatlin.
Yes, you have to fast-track the fast man, absolutely.
Okay, well, as Leighton indicated, the premiere of On Point will begin featuring an interview with the American sprinter Justin Gatlin, who provided some hint about the 39-year-old's retirement plan.
The thought has crossed my mind to be able to retire at this point in time. I haven't pull the trigger if I'm going to do so or not. I got about maybe more than 15 days before fall training starts again, so I'm going to use that time wisely to consider what my next steps are going to be.
Wow, he says about 15 days to fall training, Chris Taylor, and that is when he will decide if he begins his background work for a 2022 season or not.
And you just get the impression that Justin Gatlin just likes to be out there. He just likes to compete. I would love to hear his goals in terms of the upcoming season. If he decides to continue running, what is his expectations? I mean, does he realistically think that he's still at the level that he could win a championship or medal, or does he just like the fact of being able to just compete in front of the crowd, represent the United States of America, and possibly, defeat barriers in terms of making a final or so on. But I would think at 39 years of age, it's really taking a toll on your muscles.
Of course, and he's February born, which means that he will turn 40 years old early next year, before the outdoor season starts. And I hardly seen Gatlin competitive against the young guns, especially some of these chaps we're looking at, Coleman and others, Leighton Levy. I listened to him carefully. We were saying he hinted at a possible retirement plan. He is delaying his retirement announcement for our next couple of weeks. But the odds must favour Leighton, him saying, OK, this is it for me. It's 17 years ago that he won the Olympic gold medal for the 100 metres in Athens. He's already overstayed his time.
Well, look at it this way. He won the World Championships in 2005 and he won it again 12 years later. The thing is this, what he says is that he loves the sport.
Yes.
And you get the impression during the conversation that we had was that it's going to be a difficult decision for him to walk away because of the passion he has for the sport. He speaks about that passion throughout the course of the interview. He just loves what he does. It doesn't feel like work to him. He says he loves the hard work in the background season, the training, trying to perfect the craft and trying to be better than he was the season before. He was very revealing in his interview, and he mentioned a couple other things. He has significantly a large, high level of respect for the Jamaican athletes who he's competed against over the years.
Yeah.
He just loves what he does, and it is going to, based on what he says, it's going to be a difficult decision for him.
Yeah, well, Leighton's interview with Gatlin also highlighted that as much as Usain Bolt was respected and admired by track and field fans globally, those whom he competed against also had him in high esteem.
Competing with Usain was one of my highlights of my career. Because, him being at the stage and the stature that he is, he brought the best out of me. And he was able to help me work to a level that I didn't even see my 9.7s was a goal of mine I was able to achieve.
Yeah, Justin Gatlin there. And obviously, he's not alone in his in the sort of respect that he has for Usain Bolt. That, Chris Taylor, is something global. And we saw the rivalry. And even in competition, you could see, and he articulated it, that he had a lot of respect for Usain Bolt. And there were times when Bolt beat him that it was obvious that he was psyched out by Bolt's colossal status as an athlete. It's almost as if when Bolt drew alongside Gatlin froze and his technique went out the door.
Yeah, and I also think for many a time they brought out the best in each other, which is important, which is what you want in terms of high level of competition. So I think there's respect both ways. I'm sure if you asked Usain Bolt the same question, a similar answer might come, even though he got the better of Gatlin more times than not. But I think, as you said, I think it's a skill, Lance. What Leighton said about, just loving the sport or loving your career is an issue that many athletes have at the professional level. And I almost think it is a skill as to when to know to call it a day, the timing of it all. When should we leave? When should we hang up the spikes and say, okay, we love the crowd, but I've given you my best and I want to leave there. And I think that many athletes across many different sports struggle with that section.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you're thinking about Chris Gayle as you talk there, Chris Taylor, but I guess there's a cricket segment coming up later on in the show now with good things still expected on the track by the American sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson. Gatlin also spoke of his interactions with a brash American.
We've had a lot of talks, and she, regardless of what the world views her as, good or bad, she's one of my people. Love her. She is a spitfire. She is a breath of fresh air. She's young, and this sport is bringing in athletes younger and younger each year. You got to realize that when she came into sport, she was 19, 18 years old. You know what I mean? She was still a kid. And I always tell her that. Say, you're young. You haven't experienced anything. And then when her career, really her first year was during the pandemic, COVID, so she never really understood about traveling abroad or seeing the world or racing against people from other countries, racing against Jamaicans, you know what I mean, who have such a big legacy that they've built for years. So I think for Sha'Carri is that she's so super talented. You can see the times that she can put out. I think her last frontier is making it all feel normal. And what I mean by that is understanding travel, understanding competing against high caliber athletes from around the world, and just the maturity of it.
Yeah, interesting narrative there coming from Justin Gatlin on Sha'Carri Richardson. Very similar to comments that Usain Bolt made a couple of months ago when Bolt suggested that contrary to how a lot of Jamaicans feel about Sha'Carri Richardson, Bolt actually suggested that she is good for the sport and he likes her fiery spirit. So, Leighton, I would suggest that Gatlin's narrative here concurs with some of the views that Usain Bolt articulated a couple of months ago.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, and I think, it's us not really understanding this child as she grows up. Remember, he's right. She left straight out of high school, and in her first year of college at LSU, she ran 10.75, which made her one of the fastest women ever at just 19 years old. She's still maturing, and I think what we see from her is her inexperience, her lack of maturity. And I think with his mentorship, I think she'll be better in the years to come. It might take some time for her to come to grips with what the situation actually is on the international level. But he's right. She has the talent, and as soon as she's able to put things in context and get herself grounded, she'll be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, you said with his mentorship, is the relationship between them that close? He did suggest that he is in contact with her, but to the level of mentorship?
Yes, I mean, he did suggest that. He said that he actually spoke to her after the meet in Oregon when she finished last, when Elaine Thompson ran 10:54. Remember, they both trained in the same camp.
Yes.
So, in addition to being training partner, he's also a mentor to her. It's something that he says he probably will consider if he decides to retire, that mentorship will be part of what he does as well. So, it's part of who he is, and I think it's a good thing for her that he's actually willing to do that.
Yeah, and before you go, Leighton, for the benefit of the viewers who will be very excited by this On Point show and the premiere coming up on Wednesday, where do they access it?
Well, off the bat, you can find it on our YouTube channel. That's SportsMax.tv, our Facebook channel, our YouTube channel, sorry. And it will eventually be on the SportsMax app, and of course it will be on our website eventually when we start to break it up into individual stories for the website. So yeah, it will be on our platforms starting tomorrow. Hopefully for about 1 p.m. tomorrow will be the broadcast time when the video will be up on the website. On the YouTube channel. My apologies.
Yeah. Oh, Leighton, always great talking to you on the SportsMax Zone, and this is a wonderful project for sure. I'll be certainly looking out for all the editions coming up, starting out with Justin Gatlin, but you've mentioned other names that you've already put in the can, Shonee Miller-Weibo and Chantal Malone and so on. So from the BVI, Malone is outstanding long jumper. So we look forward to seeing your programs. Thanks, Leighton.
Thank you, Lance, and of course I'm excited by it too, because we want to get some of the more interesting athletes from across the globe to come to the Caribbean space, so that people can learn more about them and get to connect with them more, so that when they see them on the international stage, they're not just figures, they're not strangers, they'll be more familiar with them, and I think it'll grow the sport as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Leighton. We'll talk soon again.
Take it easy, guys.
Okay, horse racing fans, get your weekly action from the Sport of Kings, as I'll be back at the track. Plus, we'll preview that match with massive implications in the ICC T20 World Cup, the West Indies against Bangladesh. Back in a moment.